Hello. Okay, so Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that got you there. And one of my new author friends, I think he's an old dead guy. He says the present and the future depend on learning new habits and new ways of looking at old problems. So this really got me thinking about teams in particular. I've been working with a lot of teams during this pandemic. At the beginning, it was just, oh my gosh, what are we going to do, right? So doing some, I guess, maybe self-care of some teams. And then it transitioned into how are we going to do the work from home? Switching from being in person to being at home is a very different mindset for teams, right? And so going through and working on these problems and helping them understand it's okay, there's always more than one solution to any problem. We just have to find the one that works for you. And breaking out of some of that old thinking. So when I read these quotes this morning, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a teaching on that because it's so important. So unfortunately, about 90, well, I mean, I don't know. Unfortunately, fortunately, who knows? But 90 to 95% of your daily behavior comes from your subconscious brain, which is where your autopilot is. So any program that you have put inside your brain up until that point in your life will run the show. Okay? How you solve problems is one of those. Now, this also works for teams. Okay, I'm going to tell you about that in just a second, but let me highlight for you why or how the subconscious thing shows up. So the first thing I think of is how you tie your shoes. I mean, if I get lined up 10 people right now, there might be, 6 or 7 different ways of tying your shoes, right? Putting the toilet paper on the roll. Gee, I made the mistake once of doing this activity in a live event. People were really triggered by that one. Be careful with that. But how you drive to work, how you celebrate Christmas, how you make your breakfast in the morning, how you get ready, like the order that you get ready in the morning. All of those things, those habits are programs downloaded into your subconscious brain and they run your show. Now, the good part of that is that you don't have to think about those things anymore, right? You don't have to, consciously think about how in the world do I brush my teeth every day, right? That's good because, it allows your conscious brain to be thinking about other things. Now, in a team, the same thing works, okay? Over time, what happens is the team, they go from what we call shared thinking, which is where you get a group of people together and they're sharing ideas, they're sharing thoughts, they're brainstorming, they're solving their solutions in very creative ways. They're moving forward in that. And it's a positive, powerful thing, right? There's an energy that's created because everybody's coming together, they're sharing their thinking, but it's not the same thinking, okay? Over time, unless you have different problems to solve, like a pandemic, that really has shaken up a lot of people, or you have outside people come in, so you might have a consultant, a trainer, somebody come in to help you, right? Or maybe you have a new team member that comes in and brings new ideas. Unless you have some new life into that team, what tends to happen is the shared thinking moves into what we call groupthink. And groupthink is a little bit dangerous because that's the place where everybody on your team begins to start thinking the same. Okay? That's actually not good. You want to have the same vision. You want to be building up the same culture on your team. You do not want people thinking the same because then you get the same problems, okay? So we really want to be aware of where is our team, what are they thinking of, okay? Sometimes, that leads into politics where we're focusing so much on who has power within our dynamic that we're not focusing on what really great ideas can move us forward. Okay? We get stuck in habits or ruts. John Maxwell said that the only difference between a rut and a grave is that a grave has a headstone. I love that. So, and unless you begin thinking in new ways, your team is going to get stuck. Okay? It might not happen today, might not happen next year, but eventually it will happen. So as a leader, what is going to be your plan to make sure that you're having shared thinking and not groupthink? How are you going to be aware of that? Okay, that's really important for you to understand. You know, one of the things that I think of is that there are really 10 principles that guide our thinking. And when I say thinking, I don't mean taking in knowledge. I mean this idea of reflective thinking, right? So let's say your team comes together, you're working on a problem, you go out, you make a plan, you know, you do your thing, you come back, then you're reflecting and saying, okay, what did we learn? How are we going to make little adjustments as we go through? How are we still going to get to our goal? Okay? That's the thinking process. And most teams, they don't do that. Okay? And so there's 10 principles to thinking, and your team also has a self-image just like you as an individual. And when you truly understand what is the self-image that we have as a team and how can I move that forward, now you can get your team unstuck and actually performing better. Okay? I know this to be true because I've actually used this with many teams that I've been a consultant with. I've had the joy, the honor, and the privilege of coming into dozens of teams at all different levels in many different fields and helping them figure out, whoa, wait a minute, you're really stuck in this groupthink thing. Let's have some shared thinking and really breaking them free from being stuck. So, you know, if you want to know more about these 10 steps, would you do me a favor? We are having a live teaching call on July 14th. It's coming up soon. I will put all of the information that you can dial in later on in the comments, but show up on that call. We're going to cover those 10 principles, okay? So at the very least, you will get the 10 principles that guide your thinking, okay? I want you to be on that call because it's really going to help you as an individual and it's going to help your team move forward, okay? So with that, I release you into the wild. Go forth and prosper. Have an amazing day. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.